Welcome everyone to the L7C Podcast, My Hero Academia edition. Today we have our fourth My Hero Academia case study, and we are going to be sharing our favorite rumors, or however you want to say, rumor mill. You know how you get into an anime rumor mill and you just go down that rabbit hole. We're going to be talking about some of our top favorites and who we think the traitor is in My Hero Academia. Full disclosure, neither of us do read the My Hero Academia manga, so if it's already been unveiled there, again, we don't read it, we just follow the show, and obviously on the TV show it hasn't been unveiled. So if you're talking My Hero Academia, we have our My Hero Academia enthusiast, Miss Andrea Alaniz. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm excited to talk about these. How are you doing?
I am doing well, and since technically now this is our first new podcast of 2022, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
So Andrea, you got to pick this topic.
Yes, I did.
So what made you want to pick it?
Basically, I was having a hard time coming up with a topic for our fourth case study. And when I was doing the research for the last one that we did, involving, the police or government agencies having quirk bullets and then those quirk nukes, whatever, I basically kind of was like, maybe we should do something a little more lighthearted in general and maybe not so serious after that one. So, in any universe, any fandom, there's going to be fan theories that, are confirmed or later denied or found to be false, and some are just fun that you never really get heads or tails about them, but they're fun to just believe in or just kind of read about. And so that's why I wanted to talk about them.
Okay, fair enough. Well, do you want to go first with your first one? Go ahead.
Yes, okay. So I'm going to start from the bottom because I said our top three favorite ones. And so my third favorite is kind of just it's kind of silly, but I think it's interesting. So my third favorite one is that Hagakure, so the invisible girl, is a descendant from the first person with the quirk, the luminescent baby. Because a lot of the quirks are hereditary. And so, obviously, the luminescent baby, that luminescence is coming from some sort of light manipulation. She's invisible, and with her last kind of outing that we saw her use, her special attack, was kind of refracting light. So, I just thought that was kind of cute, was the idea that she's a great-great-granddaughter, whatever, of the first person with a quirk. And I wonder if that could mean, obviously super way down the line, if she were to have a child, what kind of quirk would come out of that, if it would be something more random, because obviously this glowing baby was out of freaking nowhere. So so that's my third favorite one. Do you want to go ahead with yours?
Yeah, so my third favorite one is actually my original. I personally think I was the first person to actually say this one. And I remember when we initially were talking about My Hero, when we first started talking to each other, I brought this up to you, how Nana Shinomura and Midoriya's mom look eerily way too similar for there to be no coincidence. And I did a pick stitch with it and everything. When you look at Midoriya's mom before, she had the weight gain, and then you put Nana Shinomura next to each other, they look super identical. And from that point on, I just went into a whole rabbit hole of other ones, but that would be my third favorite. How this one will connect to some of my other ones.
Nice. Okay. So my second favorite one, I actually just found this one within the last couple of days out of nowhere, and I love this. I really want this to be true. So I'm not sure where exactly the information comes from that supposedly Deku's dad has some sort of fire-related quirk, but this theory postulates that Bakugo and Izuku are cousins, that their dads are brothers, and so part of the reason that Bakugo kind of has this built-up resentment towards Deku is that, growing up, he was imagining potentially they would both have some sort of flame quirks, and they would be able to team up together, fight, be heroes together, and then turns out his cousin is quote unquote useless, quirkless. And so there's that kind of built-in tension and disappointment in the relationship when they were younger. And I just thought that was so cool. I really want that to be true. I also know it's on the internet. It's a theory that All for One is Deku's dad. I really hope that's not true. I really hope that's not true. But yeah, I just thought that was super cute. I had not heard that before. And I just love that. I just feel like there would be a little bit more depth, because I feel like when you're kids, getting to know your cousins, they're like your first friends. And so that relationship, if it continues that way, can be deeper than some of your like earliest friendships. So, yeah.
So my number 2, you actually brought up the All for One being Deku's dad. I've steered a little bit away from that, but I do think, because this is an anime and all of them are connected in some way, shape, or form.
Right.
There's no reason that Nana Shinomura looks like Midoriya's mom, and when All Might met Nana for the first time, he instantly thought of his master, and how Shigaragi is the grandson to Nana, who is the master of All Might, who looks like Midoriya's mom, and then you have All for One, where if he wanted to, he could have made a move on Midoriya a long time ago and killed him, but never did. So I feel like in some reincarnation, whatever, hoo-ha connection, somehow all of them are connected, and I think it's more plausible that Shigaragi and Midoriya are actually related than
right.
Bakugo and Midoriya. So I think somehow they are all connected.
Which, I mean, it makes sense, but also thinking about it, because like this is what they don't really say where in Japan this is happening, but I would assume it's in a major city, kind of like Tokyo, if not Tokyo. So, like, all of our main characters cannot be that closely related. Like, this is too big of a place, or at least it should be in the real world. It would have been too big of a place for everybody to be this closely related. But then, like you mentioned in the end of the year pod about me talking about Fruits Basket, literally almost all of those characters are cousins and in the same clan, cousins. So, you know what? You can make up whatever rules you want when you create an anime, so.
I mean, just think about Naruto. It was at the end, like, the 500 whatever episode where you realize that Naruto and Sasuke are descendant brothers of reincarnation.
I know.
So I just standing there in a line of reincarnation. You can just throw that in there like, oh yeah, like, All for One's planned this conflict between Midoriya and Shigaragi the entire time because...
And we're all related, so that's just gonna add fire. Makes me seem more evil to make family fight each other, but like, whatever, it's fine.
Yeah, so that was... I just feel like they're all connected in some way. What is your top one?
Okay, so my top one, technically speaking, is kind of cheating because it's multiple theories with one person that connects them all.
Okay.
And I've harped on this for frickin' ever with... It's Dr. Tsubasa, aka Dr. Egghead, you know, working for All for One, stealing Deku's quirk. I did find another theory that I hadn't really considered, but supposedly it was on one of the threads I was reading, it's confirmed that, do you remember that winged Nomu that snatched Midoriya right after the Stain arc? Or well, during the Stain arc? There's a theory that postulates that winged Nomu is partially, spoiler alert for season 5, is partially, like, you know, founded on Deku and Bakugo's childhood friend with with the red wings. Okay, and in this thread, I didn't get a chance to verify this information, so if it's wrong, my bad. But
I have seen that, though.
Basically, they were saying that that kid with the red wings is actually Dr. Tsubasa's, aka Dr. Egghead's grandchild.
Oh, everyone's just having a grandchild now.
I know. But, like, for me, the reason that, like, gets really twisted for me is, like, so that goes to show, like, his, like, the depth of his depravity to be experimenting on his own grandchild to create these Nomus. If that Nomu really is, you know, from that kid with the red wings, and if that kid is actually his grandchild. But, of course, I mean... It's just wild. Like, and 100% I believe Deku had a quirk. I don't know what it was. I know on the internet, some people were postulating it'd be something like, what's the word I'm looking for? So that his mom kind of has, like, telekinesis, and so his dad, like I already mentioned, has some sort of flame quirk, so it would be like pyro telekinesis or something like that. So it would be similar to Bakugo's quirk and somewhat similar to Todoroki's quirk, flame manipulation. But I feel like that can't be right, because I feel like that quirk wouldn't be worth stealing. I shouldn't say it like that. It is worth stealing, but I feel like All for One would have been looking for quirks that are easy to build upon or extremely rare. So right there we have an example of like 2 other classmates his same age having derivative versions of what that quirk potentially was. And I feel like he would have been looking for stuff more along the lines of like what showed up in Heroes Rising, that like cell regeneration, that type of stuff.
So before I say my number 1, I do want to go back on my number 2 about Midoriya and like All for One being related in some way, shape, or form, and just more things to back that up, because for the fact that, to our knowledge, every other user of One for All couldn't talk to the previous people to our knowledge, but Midoriya can. Right. And the first person who he met was the very first person who had it. So maybe it's because since he was the first person who had it, and if they're of the same bloodline, you actually get the full benefits of it, that you can actually talk to previous people. And then when All for One's like, oh yeah, the reason that you're able to talk to him is because you come from me and my brother's bloodline. And then that would be some Naruto AF.
Yes, it would.
Because it would make sense. Like, how come All Might, the greatest hero of all time, couldn't get connected to his previous people, but this 15-year-old child meets the very first person who got One for All for One's brother, and gets the whole story? There has to be a reason that his body triggered it, because it has to be something genetically or something.
Right.
So then, honorable mention, because, I mean, obviously, if you just watch the show and you don't read the manga, you have to mention Dabi potentially being a Todoroki.
Right. I just left that out because of, like, yeah, I left it out on purpose. But that, honestly, was one of my top ones forever.
I mean, for people who watch the show, I mean, they don't know. I mean,
I know that yeah, but I mean, it's just so obvious. Like, I'm sorry, like, I'm not very good at coming up with like theories and things like that. I'm really not. I'm basically like, this is the material. Other than like shipping pairings, I don't come up with anything. I really don't. But even I picked up on that. So, I mean, that one was like laid out there.
But you picked up on that. But in the show, their whole family hasn't picked up on that.
Which is some bullshit.
Just saying.
Major, just, oof. Yeah.
But no, my number 1 is pretty similar to yours, that Dr. Egghead, I honestly think he's the true main villain of this whole series.
Okay.
Because the way that he has been able to finagle all of these, he is the reason in real life that people don't trust doctors. Because you take your kid to them, and he's like, oh yeah, he doesn't have a quirk. And then and then behind his pockets taking like a sample of the person's quirk and all of that stuff. And it also makes me think, like, he's there making no moves. He's checking basically every child in their country when they're born, if they have a quirk or not. He's the one from our last podcast who made the quirk singularity theory. I just feel like he's pulling
way too many strings.
And he's not afraid, like, he's not, like, afraid of All for One. Like, you never see him, like, in fear or anything, like that's a fear sidekick. He's just like, oh, yeah, I'm this dude's equal. And All for One sought him out. So
yeah,
it's
that's
like,
true. That's a power move.
Yeah, so I'm just thinking, like, this guy may be, like, the true person running the entire series. Obviously, All for One's the big bad who's been around forever, but...
Literally.
Yeah, but Dr. Egghead, I feel like he is the one pulling all of the strings, and I do agree with you. Like, he either took Midoriya's quirk, or he realized that Midoriya was related for All for One, like with the blood and checking that, so he's told All for One, and then like they've been plotting this stuff forever. So I think that was my biggest one, that Egghead, he's pulling all this through. Egghead is a more in-your-face Zetsu.
Oh my god,
because Zetsu pulled, for all the Naruto people, Zetsu pulled the entire history of Shinobi.
Manipulated everything.
And you didn't know until the end. And then you're going to find out Egghead's the one who's been manipulating everything to this point. So, and then another honorable mention, how the hell Shigaraki doesn't know that his mentor is the one who killed his grandma, but then he hates All Might.
Right, like... At this point, I feel like he knows, he just doesn't give a shit, which makes no sense to me.
But that was his whole season 1 for hating All Might.
Right.
And All for One using an All Might's fight in season 3, like, Shigaraki is your master's grandmaster, Like, that was crazy. So, those are my thing. But now our thing is about who you think the traitor is. And like we said, we haven't read the manga. So, do you want to go first, or do you want me to go?
I'll go first just because this is going to be very disappointing to the listeners. I am so sorry. I am very, vehemently believe that somebody in UA is the traitor. I feel like one of the teachers, staff is the traitor. However, I cannot figure out who I really think would be, connected to the League of Villains or part of the Meta Liberation Army. I can't figure out who I think it is because based off of their personalities from what we've seen, I don't feel like any of them would be. And even the teachers where don't really care for them, I look at them and I try to read between the lines of their dialogue and their interactions with the students, their students or other students, and I just don't see it. And so it could be that I'm just too naive. But I don't know. I know one of the theories on the internet is that Nezu, the principal, is the traitor, and I don't think it is. It would make sense. I just don't think it is. I don't. But I'm not sure who exactly I feel like is the traitor. I low-key kind of just want to say it's the lunch hero because, why should he get a hero license to be able to cook food? So he should just be able to use his quirk to do anything, aka Meta Liberation Army. But I don't know. I really don't know. I feel like it has to be somebody in the school though. It has to.
So I've had a couple thoughts about this one. At first couple seasons, I really did thought it was the principal because the principal at UA. Sure. I then thought it could actually have been the police chief. Right, but then I steered away from that, but then I've steered a little bit back to it ever since the third movie,
right,
where you realize how the humanizer, they all just infiltrated the police. And then with the Meta Liberation Army, my whole thing has changed from screw just one traitor in the school. Who's a part of the Meta Liberation Army in the school? Because there has to be someone there. That's a whole other different traitor in itself. And we saw those three people when Hawks met with them for the first time, and we're like, who are these people? And
then they turn out to be kind of pretty freaking important.
Yes.
We've got the politician guy, we've got the journalist, and then the other guy, is he just a business conglomerate dude? Yeah. So people with power and influence.
Because they said they had 100,000 basically sleeper agents, so that means someone has to be infiltrated in the school. Student-wise,
ooh, I didn't consider the students. I really don't want to believe any of the students are, but I know popular theories are that it's Denki not Kaminari, obviously Denki Kaminari is the same person. Kirishima, that it's Denki or Kirishima. I really don't want to believe that. I really, really, really don't.
I think it could potentially be a student because you need something to break the fabric of Class 1A that, you find out it's been one of your own who's put you in harm's way.
Mineta.
Yeah, I wouldn't be.
Love that.
Just think about, because you brought it up, what you were watching earlier. Think about it with, Harry Potter.
Right.
With, how Peter turned on Sirius. It was...
Right.
And the saying is, it's always one of your own that hurts you the most. So just, imagine... imagine, after the Stain thing, what if it's Ida? That whole Stain thing changed him. He's, right in there. He hasn't had much...
He has actually been, disappearing into the back. That could be a way to bring him full force forward.
Yeah, make him the traitor. I've thought, too, that...
I doubt it, but yeah.
I know, obviously, no one wants to think that it's, Eraserhead, but what if that's not really Eraserhead?
I saw that theory online, too, that Eraserhead's been replaced with, an imitation person, somebody with, a similar quirk to Toga.
Yeah,
or,
it could be.
Somebody else that's able to just, morph into somebody else and pretend to be them.
Remember, they didn't kill him in that first fight. Mm-hmm. And think about how much blood he spilled that they could have got there. And they're just oh, now we have all this guy's blood. If we want to go
right,
watch the kids' growth,
we can just swap them out.
Yeah, so, it could be one of those people. I've seen, Present Mike, but I do think it's going to be a student. Maybe it's someone from Class 1B who, or there's some quirk that we don't know that's been able to,
just watch quietly from the back,
or subconsciously just control someone like Obito's, Genjutsu.
Right.
And then you don't, if Eraserhead's being in control this whole time and he has no idea. Because it's kind of crazy how ever since like the first episode, he's not been in a major fight.
That's true.
And that's kind of weird for a dude who has the ability to shut people's quirks off, that he's not been in a major fight since.
Not really, not since. I mean, he wasn't even in a major fight. He was part of the, task force with Overhaul, but he basically got taken out pretty quick.
Yeah, he got separated. And then I know how people, like, he is the Kakashi of, like, this world. Kakashi was in every major fight of the series. He fought every main bad guy.
And I mean, a lot of times he was a bit of an ace in the hole, whereas Aizawa is just kind of like target number one, take him out, and he's down for the count usually.
So it could be, I mean, it's wild in itself. I know I've seen some things where it's the girl who makes like all the equipment and stuff.
Oh, May?
Yeah, but the way she makes the equipment, there's like a small little tracker in everyone's stuff. So the egghead professor's been able to track their movement because they wouldn't know.
Right.
So it's just like that's something that's super
Ooh, and
crazy.
Then she's part of the Meta Liberation Army. They show up, for this war, show up for this fight, and then she turns off all their equipment.
Yeah, so that is something else that's been super crazy. But I do think it's someone in 1A. I think it is a student. Because that would be the more shocking. A student or a Eraserhead. Those would be the two, like, if they're going for shock factor.
That's fair.
And then you find out some tragic backstory how, like, All For One had their mom hostage or a Eraserhead's wife that you just found out he had that's been, like, super sick. And the doctor said he can give her a cure.
And it's Dr. Egghead.
Yep, and it's Dr. Egghead. And then it's like, he was doing this for his wife. So then all of them would be like, all right.
Like, we see it. We see you.
Shout out to Season 1 Pegasus, who was hosting Duelist Kingdom just so he can bring his wife back to life. So that's what I think it's going to happen.
All right.
So that was the fourth one. We do know the season's coming back in fall. So we still got a couple more to do. So now it is my turn to pick.
Yes.
And
sorry, y'all. My picks are going to be kind of weak. I'm so sorry.
So mine, which we're going to have to pick a really good day to do this because I think you're going to talk for maybe 2, 3, maybe 4 hours.
No way.
We're going to talk. I think the topic we're going to talk about is the My Hero Academia class 1A and some of the other, but more focused on 1A. The girls.
Okay.
The good, the bad,
the
and ugly. Like, how are they good? How are they, like, not good? Like, the ugly about it? Like, are they their usefulness compared to the guys? Like, is it equal? Because, I mean, My Hero Academia has all these, like, side characters get major moments, and there's, like, these prominent women, but
the prominent women haven't really had, I mean, Momo kind of had her moment. Oh, my gosh. Uraraka has had, like, a couple, like, glimpses. Sue has had, love Sue. But
are they more useful or are they more fan service? That's basically the question.
That's fair. Is that the ugly category? Is like, okay.
The good is like they're actually major contributors to the story, all of that stuff. Like basically the bad, have they gotten any real character development since their stuff? Okay. And then it's like the ugly is like, are they actually prominent in the story or are they just fan service?
That's fair.
Because all three of these categories is where a lot of My Hero Academia's fan base actually comes from. A lot of people talk about how the girls from the fan service side are drawn incredibly well and like mature and all that stuff physically. The good part has talked about how they've had more girls do more stuff as their young age and like any of like the Naruto and all that stuff.
Right, true.
But then the ugly is like, I mean the middle is like, are they really that important? Like if they all just disappeared, would we notice? Like
True. Because I mean, I think ideally we want to get to a place where like the female characters are part of like the core. Like I understand that Sakura is part of the core of Naruto, like, but I mean, I would very much love throwback to Sailor Moon, but just like an entirely female-led kind of just so all of them are contributing members, all of them are the main characters, and if one of them was down, we notice immediately. Because, I mean, when you make that comment about, like, if they disappeared, how much would it impact the story? I mean, other than Deku's love life, Uraraka disappearing really, at this moment, from what we know from the show, doesn't have that great of an impact.
But does it even have that great of an impact on Deku's love life? Because he's not really reciprocating that feelings.
I mean, the way I understand it is that his feelings are there. He's just, like, not allowing himself to focus on those. I think he would feel her loss and that support that she, like, provides for him. Like, that kind of, like, rewriting the ship.
But what if she left, Bakugo's nicer? Does that really mean she... Because I do like your thing, which we can talk about, like, more next time, about, like, making, like, an all-women's, like, task force. Like, so I guess a fourth part would be, like, improvements and stuff that they could do if we have any improvement suggestions. Then also bonus thing, because we talked about it, and with just the teenage age people ranking our top 10 who the strongest are.
Okay, is this all one episode?
So it's all women-centric.
Okay, okay.
So we're giving the women their due.
And we're just doing Class 1A, we throwing in Class 1B?
For, like, strong, like, that strongest stuff, yeah.
Okay, got it.
But you can talk about how Class 1B, they have some women there that may need to be utilized more.
Yeah, they do. Don't like you, little mushroom girl, but, like, dang, you pack a powerful punch.
And yeah, because, I mean, obviously you're super passionate about, like, women representation, and yeah, so I think you'll definitely enjoy that one.
Yeah, I don't know about 3-4 hours worth of talking, but
you can get in on I mean, they've already heard you. You can get on a full tangent about how they've disrespected Momo. So I've literally heard them before, so you can get on a whole tangent.
It's true. This is very true.
Andrea, anything else you would like to say in your first podcast of 2022?
Very glad to be back in 2022. It has been only 12 hours since the last time I recorded.
Well, they don't know that.
They do now. Unless they edit it out, but it's fine. I'm very excited for this next podcast, this next case study, and I am excited to, just keep talking about anime through 2022 and whatever else I talk about. Hope you guys keep listening to all of us, myself included, and thanks.
Well, can't end it any better than that. And this is the L7C signing out. Thank you for listening to this episode of the L7C Podcast. Be sure to like, rate, review, and subscribe to the channel. Follow us on all social media platforms, and we'll be talking to you guys soon. Take care.